What's going on, y'all? This is Dana Pope Jr., Master Executive Aide, and today we're going to be talking about the myth behind the ancient Egyptian yoga postures. And I got to work on figuring out how to share the pictures with y'all that I have that go along with this. Um, Be Live was a free subscription I was using, so I now have to pay for it because I guess I used all of the streams that they had available to me. So I'm looking into that, but I'm trying to see if there's another way to do it. I found another screen sharing tool, but it didn't have all the capabilities that I wanted. So I'm gonna look into getting those things together for you guys so you can see the pictures that I have with this. And I think what I'll do is I'll put them all in a file and I'll put them in the description box so you guys can view the pictures at your own leisure. But most of this is going to be a story anyway, because we are now talking about the mythology behind the Egyptian yoga postures. So let's let me put this on the side so I can see both screens. Make sure you guys can still see me. So let's get right into this. All right. And I guess some other public service announcements. I'm going to if when I look at the underlying um, tone of everything that I'm doing, it has to do with energy management. So I'm going to pick one thing, and everything that I do is going to branch off of that, and that is energy management. Because that's what I am. I'm a energy manager, master executive, and a money master. Which underneath everything is energy. So essentially, I'm an energy master. So everything that I share on this channel will have to do with the mastering of your energy. And what I'm going to be doing is developing systems in which you can manage your energy better. So I'm actually going to go through the process of uh, developing systems to help you manage your energy in the different areas of life. That's what I'm gonna be doing with this channel going forward, as well as finishing the other things that I started. So let's get into it. So, what do the myths behind the Egyptian yoga postures mean? So, Egyptian yoga is not commonly known. Like many people are unaware that yoga was even practiced in ancient Egypt, especially with the fact that most of the resources that you look to when it talks about the origins talk about India. And that's no shade thrown on India. Just I'm just making you guys aware that Egyptian yoga is not something that's commonly known. You know, when you first mention yoga to most individuals, the first place they think is India. So basically, the never ending goal of any yoga, real yoga practice, is the discovery of the divinity that's in you, the union with the cosmos, and spiritual enlightenment. So Egyptian yoga gives you a physical practice with meditative qualities infused with the cosmic principles that the netters or the gods and goddesses represent. So it's a psycho-spiritual and a psycho-physical transformation that can lead one to their highest points of existence. So the display of the postures and philosophy of the netters can be seen on many reliefs in steel. And Egyptian relief, or a relief of any kind, is basically a carving, and it's found almost exclusively in ancient Egyptian sculptures in the sunken relief, also called an incised relief, in which the carving is sunk below the level of the surrounding surface and is contained within a sharply incised contour line that frames it with a powerful line and of light and shade. So basically, it's like a carving inside of a stone that's sunken, like it might be sunk under the ground as like to hold it with. So a stela, or a stele, is an upright monument, containing. Forgive me if I pronounced that wrong. I didn't get the pronunciation, but a stela is a upright monument, containing information in the form of text, images, or a combination of the two. A stele has been used to commemorate people or events, to delineate physical spaces, or as objects which through which the to access the dead or divine. So and I have pictures, but you can look it up. Just look up an Egyptian relief or Egyptian stela, spelled Stela, or stele. So the understanding of the myth of Asar and Osiris will give us an understanding of the deep psycho-spiritual symbolism of each exercise. So the journey we go on throughout our lives, as well as creation, and understanding of the soul, can be found in the teachings of these myths. And another thing, the only reason I had kind of not put these videos out as often as I was at first was because when I started to do the practice, I found that I kept having to stop to check for different parts of the practice to continue the practice, and it was taking a long time. So what I actually did was, um, and I was even on and off with this. I was supposed to put together kind of like a streamlined practice so that I can, like, even if I have to refer back to it, it would be in line and I would be able to go through the whole system without stopping as much. And eventually the times I have to stop will get less and less over time the more that I do it, because I'll naturally be acclimated to it. So like pretty much like these last 2 days, I pretty much spent most of my time just putting together this practice. And so now we're going to continue this series, and I'm actually going to be practicing in full. Um, so right, let's continue. So we're going to start with creation. So to get started, we're going to be looking at creation from a cosmological, systematic standpoint to make it easier to understand. For those that don't know, cosmology is basically the science of the origin and development of the universe. Modern astronomy is dominated by the Big Bang Theory, which brings together observational astronomy and particle physics. It is basically cosmology is basically an account or theory of the origin of the universe, and we're going to use cosmology combined with something called cosmogony. And just a quick note on that, when it comes to the Big Bang Theory, I do believe in it, and I believe in it because if you combine that with religion, for example, when God said, "Let there be light," bam, Big Bang. Yeah, I mean, basically the electromagnetic spectrum is created, vibration is created. Yeah, I mean, so like these two things don't go against each other. Like I think it's common that people are like, it's either the Big Bang Theory or it's God, and I'm like, it's both. God said, "Let there be light," bang, electromagnetic spectrum, pretty much vibration, where all of the stuff that we can see is. And that's just my opinion. Like I said, I wasn't there. Or was I? Anyway, cosmogony is the branch of science that deals with the origin of the universe, especially the solar system. Today, the central question of cosmology and cosmogony are being explored within the framework of the Big Bang Theory, or the theory regarding the origin of the universe. In their cosmogony, the world was thought to be square or flat surface. That's an example of cosmogony. And I ain't even gonna get started on the whole flat Earth thing. Like, I'm not saying it's true. I'm not saying it's not. But I like what something that somebody I follow says. I ain't gonna say his name because I don't know, if it's comfortable or cool with that. But that the actual planet depends on the minds of the people living on it and the majority and what they think that it is. However, I will say, um, man, I gotta be careful, man, because people like are crazy about this stuff. But the flat Earth theory makes sense. You know what I mean? It makes sense. Definitely does. And I ain't gonna get into all the whys and hows and all of that. I mean, but it makes sense. That's all I'm gonna say. Inside of um, ancient Egyptian philosophy, you can find these two sciences ingrained in the main religious systems of, or the company of the gods and goddesses. So, emergent from the supreme being is a group of deities that represent a particular principle or cosmic force. So, this group of deities is also known as a company. Each principle represents a cosmic force or law of nature that is used by the supreme being or the self to manifest creation with. So the basis of the Assyrian or Osirian Trinity is formed by the oldest system we know, which is the company or the gods and goddesses of Anu. So I have a picture to show you the gods of the company of Anu. I'll put that in the description. I also have a picture of the creation by Ra, where Ra is pretty much pushing up the um, the netters or the principles out of the primordial ocean. You know what I mean? And then the other pictures of the gods and the company of Anu are them on the boat or the bosque of 1,000,000 years. You know what I mean? So I'll put those both in the description. And then so that diagram is also referred to as the Ennead or Psejet. And forgive me if I pronounced that wrong. It's spelled Psedjet, Psejet. That's like Meduneter, the stat language. So an Ennead is a group or a set of nine. So these are nine creative principles or nine gods and goddesses. So emanating from the supreme being, you can see the creative principles. The primordial gods and goddesses embody these principles of creation. So Nu is represented by the primeval waters, which Ra or Ratem arose out of to begin the journey in a boat of 1,000,000 years that you saw in the that you'll see in the picture that I'll put up there. Um, that includes the company of the principles or the company of the nine. So the netters or the cosmic principle of creation emerged from his boat. So here's a list of the netters or the Ennead. This is in no particular order. So you have Ra, Atum, or Atum, Atum. You have Shu, you have Tefnut, you have Geb, you have Nut, you have Asar, also known as Osiris. You have Aset, also known as Isis, and you have Set, and you have Nebhet, Nebehet, also known as Nephthys. And then we have Hedharu or Hathor, Jehuti, also known as Thoth, and we have Ma'at, and they are the attributes of the supreme being that are at the foundation or the basis of the very stuff that makes up creation. And then the principles that creation manifests itself from are Shu, Tefnut, Geb, Nut, Asar, who's also Osiris, Aset, who is also Isis. And then also you have Set and Nebet or Nephthys. And then in the Asarian or the Osirian myth, we see that Anubis is not part of the Ennead, but Anubis is rather the principle of intellectual discrimination. So the movement of this boat or this bosque where these nine principal R's represents the beginning of motion in creation. Basically, that big bang, that first movement is the bang. And in my opinion, that is the beginning of vibration. Um, so when God spoke and said, let there be light, that's basically let there be vibration. Let there be the electromagnetic spectrum. Let there be movement or motion. I mean, even in there's a book called the Gospel of Thomas. This was a book that was removed from the Bible, but it's in it they're asking Jesus, like, what should we say to them, kind of, what should we say to them, what life is, and they say it is movement and rest. Yeah, I mean, so basically, like, if there's no movement, there's no life. um that was very simplified way of breaking that down, but I'm gonna continue. So what we call the elements or the phenomenon of the universe coming into existence as moving mass, along with the implication of the events that occur in time and space, is considered motion. So basically, um the universe coming into existence, mass, that's motion. I mean, time and space, motion. All of this, you may not see time and space as something that's physical, but it is. It's that's considered motion. So before motion, there was no form, there was no time, there was no space. There was just a primeval state of something being shapeless and formless. I mean, like, remember before um, uh, the earth was formed, he hovered over the face of the deep. I mean, there was nothing there. It was shapeless. It was formless. I'm saying, so. Next, we're going to talk about Heru, Horus, uh, Asar. I'm sorry, Heru is Horus. We're going to talk about these are the, I guess you could say, the new names and the original names. Yeah, I mean, and I don't even know how original the original names are, but for the sake of this conversation, we're going to say Heru is actually Horus, Asar is Osiris, and Aset is Isis. So I want you to remember those, because I'm not going to keep making those relations throughout. I may sometimes if I feel it, but if I don't, just try to remember. And Heru is Horus. That's an easy one to remember. Asar and Aset are the ones that you kind of get mixed up on, but Asar is kind of easy to remember because you just remember Osiris, Asar, Osiris, and then Aset is Isis. I mean, so let's continue. So pretty much the dedication to humanity and the spreading of civilization as far as India and China, that was what Asar, who is Osiris, and Aset, who is Isis, that's what they set out to do. So and y'all got to remember, this is all allegorical. Yeah, I mean, so because Aset was always on her job, I mean, when governing the country, things went well. Um, Under her watch, due to her extremely vigilant and watchful eye for anything irregular or unrighteous. And this did not allow Set to make any changes to the state during the absence of Asar. So basically, Asar was away. He was out preaching, teaching, letting the world know, about these same things that I'm talking about now. And Isis or Set was in charge. I mean, so Set, like, he wanted to change stuff and he couldn't because a Set was there. So there was a rejoicing and a celebration upon Asar's return to the land after carrying out the teachings abroad. So, however, Asar and Nebuchadnezzar, who is basically Set's wife, slept together. I mean, due to Asar, he had too much to drink. I mean, and he wasn't vigilant. And from that union, they begot Ampu. So afterwards, the personification of the evil forces known as Set, in his jealousy and in his anger, um, and this jealousy and his anger is also known as the blinding passion that prevents forgiveness. And he conspired to kill Aset and usurp the throne. So the conspiracy that basically, like, the way Set was plotting to do this was basically Set was going to make Asar a coffin, or Osiris a coffin, so he could try it on. And so while Asar would be resting in his coffin, Set and his compadres and his comrades will lock the coffin, and then while Asar was resting in it, and then dump it in the Nile River. So, like, I know you may be like, man, like, why would anybody, like, get in a coffin? Like, first off, why would anybody offer somebody a coffin, like, as a gift? And then second, why would somebody get in a coffin and be like, oh man, thanks for this coffin? Like y'all gotta understand, like the Egyptians thought about death different from the way we do. Like we're crying and mourning and all that stuff. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't, you know what I'm saying? Like if you got somebody on this earth with you, yeah, you gonna be upset, sad when they leave. But in the time of the Egyptians, they prepared for stuff like this. This was actually seen as a celebration to send someone off into the afterlife. You know what I'm saying? So like you buying somebody a casket, like an iced out casket, and that day would be like the same as buying somebody like a, I don't know what kind of cars y'all like, but like a Suburban with some rims on it. I mean, or Escalade with some rims on it. Be like, yo, try it out, or like I don't know, some really expensive clothing. I mean, to try on, or like getting somebody something really valuable. Like that's what a casket or a coffin would be seen. I don't even like to use that word casket. That's what a coffin would be seen as back in that day. So that's why that wasn't like something that wasn't normal. You know what I mean? To like, yo, try on this coffin, this joint. I got you this coffin, this joint iced out. You know what I mean? It got everything that you need. Look at all the inscriptions stuff. Yo, try this joint on, man. I think it look real good on you. And then he locked him in there, joint, and threw him into the Nile. So anyway, coffin drifted along the Nile. Finally, it made its way to Syria, and it became like embedded inside of the dirt. And from that dirt, um, it was almost like a seed was planted. Like his casket acted as a seed, and a tree grew from this casket. And the tree had a pleasant aroma. And from it was in the form of what's called the Jed. Almost sounds like the Jedi, the Jed. Now the Jed is a pillar with four horizontal lines in it. And those four horizontal lines all represent something. Let me get that picture up so I can let y'all know what each of these represent. But I'm sorry, like you guys can't see the picture, but you can look it up. Just look up the DJED, the Jed pillar, and you'll come up with plenty of pictures. So I'm looking for the picture that I have. All right, so in the Jed, the it represents the four horizontal lines represent uh stability. You know what I mean? Well, the whole thing represents stability, it represents prosperity, it represents the king's rule, fertility, the backbone of Osiris. One of the oldest symbols of ancient Egypt, the Jed is a pillar with several horizontal lines at the top. It can be seen in hieroglyphs, architecture, and artwork. Its meaning is universal and it remains an important and respected symbol in Egypt. And they also have, if you go look at the Jed, you type in the Jed in the Brooklyn Museum, they actually have, I don't know if it's there, but they have a picture of an actual Jed there. So let's continue. So, and like I said, on Osiris' back or Osiris's back, you can find the symbol of the Jed. The Jed is represented by a straight column made of four horizontal lines. Inside the individual human beings, inside of us is our energy centers, our chakra centers. So the Jed represents the top half, pretty much after the solar plexus, which would be like the center of the chakra system. I believe the solar is the, don't quote me on that, I'm sorry, but the Jed represents the top half of the chakra system, or the upper energy centers of consciousness. So the king of Syria, basically he fell in love with this tree, you know what I mean, after he walked past it because it smelled so good, it had fragrant aromas. And while he was walking by the tree one day, so basically he had it cut down, brought back to the palace, and made like this pillar with it. So Aset or Isis, she went into Syria in search of Asar or Osiris. So remember, Aset represents the mother of the life-giving force in all creation. So this life-giving force went into Syria looking for Osiris. She took on the job as the king's nurse. You know what I mean, while she was there. So every night, um, the king of Syria, which was a boy, would be transformed into immortality when the set will put him into the fire that consumed his mortal parts. So the fire is seen as a symbol of both physical and mental purification. So wisdom, the light of truth and illumination and energy are all characteristics of fire. So Aset, through her symbolic essence, has the power to bestow immortality onto one by the virtue of her qualities through her transformative powers. So afterwards, Aset explained to the king of Syria that the pillar he made from the tree was actually coming out of Asar, and so he returned the Jed pillar to her graciously. Of course, there was no like, oh man, like this my pillar. Like no, he gave it back, and she returned to Kemet or Egypt with it. So after they returned to Kemet, Aset took Asar to the papyrus swamps, where she then proceeded to stand over Asar's corpse and found him with her wings. And her wings were infused with life force energy, and they basically infused him with life force energy, and he was brought back to life. So, through her power of love and wisdom, Aset was revived, and they were once again united. And this was also with the assistance of Thoth or Jehuti and Amun or Aman or basically Ra. Aset and Asar conceived a son from their union. So then there was the question of like, how did this happen? I'll go into that maybe some other time, but just for right now, question that popped in my head was not only how did this happen, like how did Thoth and Amun or Jehuti and Amon help? And I know that Thoth, he's a deity that's credited with great magical and healing powers. So Amun Ra, his main characteristics as the solar god is it's god of creation and fertility. So when we're thinking about conception, and we see that Amun is the god of fertility, and we see that Thoth is a deity credited with healing powers, we can understand how they assisted in this union. So one day, basically, Set was hunting in those swamps, and he ran into Asar and Set. And now, mind you, Set is now the ruler of Egypt, pretty much. He's the ruler. So he ran into them, and he went into a rage and basically dismembered Asar's body. Not again, but he dismembered his body. I mean, this time, like he was trying to make sure, like they'll never put him back together again. He spread the bodies throughout the land. And it's interesting because when I was thinking about this, the first thing I thought about was Dragon Ball Z and like or Dragon Ball, the whole Dragon Ball series, and how they got these Dragon Balls, and they're like they get after you make your wish, they're spread all over the planet, and you got to find all of them to make a wish. It's just something I thought about. But so this also represents so Asar here represents our higher intellect. You know what I mean? And Set represents our bodily impulses that come in and just cause havoc on the higher intellect. You know what I mean? Spreading it throughout the land. So that violent behavior, that egotistical, selfish behavior is a result of the dismemberment. So with the help of Ampu and Nebet, Aset once again sets out to reclaim the pieces of Asar. So, other than Asar's phallus, um, if you guys don't know what a phallus is, it's basically like his penis. Yeah, I mean, it was eaten by a fish. So she found all the other parts but that. Yeah, I mean, so This is very similar actually to the mythology in Hinduism about the god Shiva, because Shiva also lost his phallus. So this is the part where I got kind of hyped because like I have a whole channel that's dedicated to semen retention. So this is something I'm also going to be talking about over there. It's the spiritual significance of semen retention. So the phallus actually represents, um, well, the loss of the phallus represents the the loss of seminal fluid. So, in both the Egyptian and the Hindu mythology, retention of seminal fluid is needed in order to channel the sexual energy to higher spiritual centers, where it then can be transformed into spiritual energy. So, after the recovery of all of the body parts except the phallus, Ampu Nebuchadnezzar put all the parts together, and Asar regained his life, but it was in the realm of the dead, known as Dua, spelled Duat. So it was from the life giving spirit that Aset and the physical nature. Um, I'm sorry, that Aset, who represents the life giving spirit, or Isis, who represents the life giving spirit, and the physical nature of Asar, or Osiris, that Haru, the sun, the Sun, or the Son, the sun, was born. So Haru not only represents the union of matter and spirit, but also um, Asar represents the renewal of his um, light of life after his rebirth. So we got the son who was born, who represents the union of spirit and matter. I mean, and then even the resurrection of Asar represents this new life. I mean that you have upon this resurrection. So Set then began, or Isis, she then began to search for a safer place to stay. I mean, in this time of exile, to be safe from Set, because you don't know where he is, man. Still roaming around. I mean, he might find him again and do it again after they done took all the time to put all this stuff back together. So during their travels, Haru was actually bitten by an evil scorpion that I ain't even like to use the word evil, but he was bitten by a scorpion that Set had sent. I mean, so Set was then joined by Nebuchadnezzar and the scorpion goddess Seklet to assist Set on their journey. So like they're all crying together, they're upset. You know what I'm saying? Because Haru was sitting here bitten by the scorpion. So then, in an attempt to restore Haru back to health, Seklet told Set to call upon Ra, the supreme being, using her words of power. So Ra could then stop his movement in the bark of a million years, and then restore Haru's health. And that's interesting because when we talk about movement stopping, when we talk about vibration stopping, like how does that even happen? But anyway, um so to assist Aset in the restoration of Heru, um, Ra sent Jehuti, or Thoth, with some words of power and spiritual power. Heru was restored. Jehuti restored. Um, Heru was restored to full health afterwards, and then after that, Isis, or Set, she proceeded to educate Heru, and he quickly grew up to be a strong young man. So in this time, Set was the ruler. So Asar from Dua, um, he encouraged Heru to challenge Set, and he encouraged him to take up arms. Now, arms, we not talk about guns and swords. And don't get me wrong, like I'm getting some more guns and uh, actual katana. I got a wooden one right now because practicing. I don't want to cut myself trying to sheath my sword, but anyway. These are spiritual arms we talk about. These are the ones that are the most important. So um Right, he encouraged him to take up arms. These arms represent vitality, wisdom, courage, strength of will to establish truth and righteousness and justice in the world. So finally, in this last part, we're going to talk about the battle of Set and Heru. So the battle of Set and Heru could, from like a boxing standpoint, be almost seen as like a draw, where both sides at time appeared to have the upper hand, but nobody really seemed to be the winner. So there was a point in the battle where a Set or Isis, she tried to help Heru or Horus by capturing Set. But then out of pity and compassion, she released him. You know what I mean? So then basically after she released him in a rage, he cut her head off and went about his day in a state of frustration. So even Heru in all his glory sometimes can become susceptible to passion, which remember that's us. Passion sometimes leads us to doing deeds which we later regret. So during the battle, Set laid hold of Heru and gouged his eyes out. So now this gouging out of the eyes represents blindness from the truth. So at that point, Heru was overpowered by Set or evil and was unable to do battle with Set due to his blindness from Ma'at. Ma'at represents reciprocity, truth, all that stuff. So had Heru, who was the goddess of love, um, desire and fierce power later restored the left eye of Heru or the left eye of Ra. So Het Heru is the destructive fire spitting power of light that dispels darkness or the ignorance that comes from being blind. So the conflict resumed. You know, they began fighting again, and the two ended up finding themselves in court before the Ennead gods or the company of nine that we spoke about before. So Set, with his evil intentions, he agreed to end the fight and restore Heru to the throne. But little did Heru know that when he invited him to his house, he tried to have intercourse with him. So basically, this is the homosexual act trying to be going right here. You know what I mean? Or not so much the homosexual act, but the energy behind it, which is the unrestricted control of sexual energy. So this aspect of Set, like I said, it represents the unrestricted control of sexual energy. So in contrast of this aspect of Set, who is represented here as the uncontrollable sexual potency and desire, is Heru, who represents the form of the ichthyphallic or the erect phallus or men. Men represents the control of sexual desire and sublimation. So just in case you guys don't know what sublimation means, because I didn't, in physics, sublimation is the conversion of a substance from the solid to the gaseous state without its becoming liquid. So an example is the vaporization of frozen carbon dioxide or dry ice at ordinary atmospheric pressure and temperature. The phenomenon is the result of vapor pressure and temperature relationships. So in continuation, Set then tried to trick the Ennead gods into thinking that Heru was not worthy of the throne, further hoping to destroy Heru. And he tried to do this with a valid point, saying that basically Heru was too young to rule over the kingdom, like that he was too young. And following his trickery was a letter from Asar pleading. Remember, Asar is in Jed, not Jed, Dua. He sent a letter basically saying that like do the correct thing, telling the Ennead, pleading to the Ennead to do what's correct. Um and that Heru should rule as the rightful heir to the throne. So 7 out of the 9 agreed that Heru was too young to rule. And this judgment almost went through. But before that happened, Asar sent another letter on a scroll of papyrus saying that their deeds that even their deeds would not be able to be to avoid the consequences of. I'm sorry. Let me say this right. That their deeds, that because of their deeds, even they would not be able to avoid the consequence of their judgment when they finally go to the West, which is the abode of the dead, to be judged. So this moment was significant because it was basically a statement saying that even the gods won't escape judgment. You know what I mean? So all are bound to the law because all that exists is only a manifestation of absolute reality that resides outside of space and time. I mean, this includes everything in space and time, including humans, spirits, gods, angels, and netters. You know what I'm saying? So Asar's warning, it worked, and Heru was crowned as the king of Egypt. And so basically, Set defeated, made peace with Heru, and handed over the throne. All the guys rejoiced, and bringing this legend to a conclusion. The legend of Asar, Aset, and Heru. So basically, this whole story is a symbol of the journey that all of us must go through in the form of Asar and his spiritual resurrection as Heru. So spiritual enlightenment can be obtained through the understanding and the practice of the story of the Osirian Trinity of Asar, Aset, and Heru in these hidden teachings. So that is pretty much the story behind the Egyptian yoga um, exercises, meditations, beside behind the whole practice. And so next, we're going to get into the on the next show, we're going to get into the the symbolism of each of the netters or each of the gods or goddesses and what they represent, and how that will give us also a deeper understanding of um, the principles and how they affect our practice of the Egyptian yoga overall. So I thank you for joining me. Look in the description box for the pictures. Also, check out my other channels. I have a channel where I do book reviews. I'll be reviewing, I'll say no less than a book a week. My goal is to do 5 books a week, but we'll see how that works out with my budget. I'm actually looking at getting some funding for the books, so we'll see how that works out. And then also my other channel is Semen Retention. I'm going to be doing some more videos on that soon. Um, and drop a like if you enjoyed this video. Comment if you have anything to say, positive or negative, I don't care. Um, and and yeah, that's it. Subscribe to the channel if you like my videos. And like I said, going moving forward, we're gonna be talking about energy management. Going to be putting together an energy management system that's going to help you improve your life in the 4 areas: wealth, health, wisdom, and relationships. So that's it, guys. Wholeness, and I will see you later.